In today's Doctor Who action figure product review, I'm going to be taking a look at yet another B&M 2019 exclusive Doctor Who action figure collector set release. In today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the Sontaran's collector set, featuring Field Major Styre, Commander Linx, and none other than Harry Sullivan, the 4th Doctor companion from Season 12. This box set is available alongside a plethora of many other Doctor Who 5.5 action figures, from 2 TARDIS collector sets and 3 Dr. Dalek Big Finish 3-packs. It is truly a very exciting month for Doctor Who action figure collectors indeed. The recommended retail for this set is $19.99, and it is going to be available from B&M stores throughout the UK throughout August this year. So of course the B&M 3-packs are pretty much the regular occurrence of the B&M exclusive Doctor Who action figure line. However, I feel that this year they have almost been overshadowed by the B&M Dr. Dalek 2-packs, when actually we've got some rather exciting 3-packs this time round, which are brilliant for army builders and also people who missed out on the original Forbidden Planet exclusive line of action figures, and this set is certainly one of them. So as you can see, we've got the brand new modern design of packaging that has in fact never been used for the 3-packs so far, up until the release of this year's products. So as you can see at the very top, we do get the 13th Doctor New Series Doctor Who logo, along with the Includes bubble at the very top, and of course a graphic of the TARDIS on the left hand side. Along the bottom band of the set, it does of course state the title of the product being the Sontaran's collector set, along with the limited edition golden sticker, which is not something to be alarmed about. From what I understand, there is going to be quite a lot of stock of these products that will be in your local B&Ms for the next few months, so it's not going to be a rush to in fact buy them, and hopefully people will not be selling them on eBay for extortionate prices, because there will be no need, because it will not be that hard to track them down if you have a B&M local to you. In the very middle, there is of course the preview window in order to look at the products on the inside of the box, and I have noticed that on these slightly taller action figures, this may slightly hinder the view, so do be warned, character. Maybe kind of trim this down a little bit in order to ensure that you're not covering up your action figures, because at the end of the day, that is the main selling point of the set. As with the previous years of B&M 3-packs, on the sides of the box you do also have the promotional images of the figures, and of course the TARDIS on the opposite side as well. Turning around to the back of the box, once again exactly the same layout to usual, with the promotional images of the figures inside the set, and sadly there is no informational text, which it may be nice to include that in the future, just to bulk out the back of the box a little bit more, in order to make it look not as empty. So overall, for the new packaging, a nice worthy upgrade for the B&M 3-packs, and it is nice to see the incorporation of the most recent Doctor Who logo. So this is of course a rather unusual set, because we have Harry Sullivan and Field Major Styre as seen within the 4th Doctor Season 12 story, the Sontaran Experiment, and then of course to make this a 3-pack we also have Linx from the 3rd Doctor story, the Time Warrior. Now of course these characters never met, it's just a case of basically adding another Sontaran figure, so this is in theory a very good set for people who want to army build Sontarans, because you could very easily just stick the helmets on top and then have some regular trooper Sontarans, which is no doubt what a lot of people who got the original Forbidden Planet exclusive figures will of course be doing. However, naturally the big attraction of this set is Harry Sullivan himself, a figure that I don't think really anybody expected to see, certainly after the reduction of classic action figures a few years ago. So starting off with the 2 Sontaran figures, I'm pretty much going to be reviewing both of these simultaneously, because for the most part the sculpt is in fact exactly the same, and therefore both of the figures share pretty much exactly the same detail. Now of course, due to Linx and Styre being released beforehand as a part of the Forbidden Planet exclusive line, both of these figures have pre-existed in other sets in the past. Therefore, the majority of this review for the Sontarans is in fact pretty much going to be a comparison between these 2 figures as well as their previous counterparts from the exclusive line, seeing how the paint application has changed and the general appearance of the figure itself. So we have Linx on the left from the Time Warrior, and we have Field Major Styre from the Sontaran Experiment on the right. Taking a closer look at the main body of the figure, because for the most part both Styre and Linx in fact share once again exactly the same detail mostly in these sections. So the entire armour has been really nicely created and sculpted, and does in fact very much look like the material that they used for the outfit within the actual story. So we have a series of different piping lines, as you can see on the costume itself, as well as a lovely series of different creases and things within the material, especially down this middle section here, and it makes these Sontaran armour look incredibly padded, and actually like it's not been made of plastic. It does look like a much more flexible material, which is very effective. Along the very bottom of the chest section, we do also get these belts, which have both been painted using a silver paint. We do also have this rather minuscule detailing of these square sections around the very sides of the belt as well. Now, just turning the figures around to the back, we once again have exactly the same detail repeated. On the upper half of the armour, once again we have a few piping designs, and we do also have the continuation of the belt as well. Comparing the paint application on both of these Sontaran communicators on the belts of the figures, as you can see both of them are exactly the same sculpt, however have had alterations in paint apps between the two figures. So starting off with Linx, we do of course have this black section here, as well as the dial in the very middle, and on Styre it is just a solid silver along with the rest of the communicator. Circular section in the middle is the one to be painted black. At the very top of the communicator we do have a red button, and then we do of course have the either two smaller buttons at either side. On Styre this is a dark grey, and then of course on Linx it is a more creamy colour. So once again a rather nice variation, and quite similar to that of the previous versions released as a part of the Forbidden Planet exclusive line. Comparing the Sontaran thighs now, that is something that I definitely thought I wouldn't be saying today. So we have the Linx one once again on the left, and this has in fact seen a slight adjustment to the thigh section. Much like the original version of Linx, you do of course have this small panel here, where he can of course store his little wand weapon, and then on Styre it is basically exactly the same sculpt, just with this small tubing section actually absent on the side, and other than that, the armour detailing is exactly the same. Boots of the two Sontarans are in fact where there is the majority of the differences in detail, in fact two entirely different sculpts. So starting off with Linx, we have a much more standard Wellington style boot with a little bit of creasing in there, once again very much like the original Forbidden Planet exclusive version of Linx. And then of course you do also have the knee pads on the Linx figure. These have been painted in a very strong silver, and then of course on Styre these are much more of just a colder dark grey. Moving on to the actual Styre figure, there is a little bit more of interesting detailing going on. So we do have this much more armoured style of boot, once again painted with a dark grey paint app, and then of course along the very bottom of the feet section we do also have the additional detailing of a few bits of armour on there as well. Tilting the Sontarans around to the back, we once again get a little bit of a preview what possibly is the Linx boot in fact underneath, painted in a black, and then of course on the Linx figure it is just the standard regular boot shape once again, with the sole painted once again in silver at the very bottom. And then of course on Linx we do also get the very unusual inclusion of this little cone shape, which makes both of them a little bit different between the two costumes. Speaking of other small differences, both of the Sontarans look like they're about to break into a fight here, but we do in fact also have some different sculpts within the fingers themselves. So we have the Linx finger sculpt, which is of course the standard 3 that the Sontarans are known for, which have just been painted in the Linx skin tone colour, and then we do of course also have Styre, which have much more humanoid fingers, including 4 fingers and the regular thumb. Moving up to the very top of the Linx figure now, of course this does share exactly the same sculpt to the original Time Warrior set version of Linx, that funnily enough I did in fact only just review a few months ago as well, because I only just managed to add it to my collection a few months ago, and I did in fact say in that review how much I love the paint application, and this version of Linx is in fact drastically different from that original one. I will be doing a comparison in a little bit. However, for the most part quite a lot of the details still do remain. Of course the skin tone itself has been completely changed. We have a much more sort of murky grey colour that has been used around the face. There is of course quite a lot of wrinkles in there, with a lot more darker grey highlights, especially around the sides of the face, really nicely emphasising that bone structure. What is also really nice to see is we do have the paint application underneath the mouth there, as well as on the eyebrows, to bring out some of Linx's facial hair, which is a really lovely touch. And then we do of course have the eyes, which have been seeped back into the head, which do look in fact fact, well, they stand out quite a lot, of course, due to the face being a very pale grey colour. Of course, the eyes themselves are just a standard white with the little iris painted, and then of course we do also have the paint application of the mouth underneath, with even the inclusion of the tongue sticking out, which is a really lovely touch. Now, of course, this has been painted in a slightly lighter grey colour, however, it does in fact seep into pretty much the rest of the first colour very easily. Moving around to the sides, we do have the ears, with once again a little bit of facial hair coming from them, and then of course around the back as well we do have additional detailing of a few bits of creases and wrinkles within the head itself here and there. But other than that, it is a very nice sculpt. However, the paint application is a little bit questionable. Of course, if you didn't buy the original Linx, then this is perfect for you. However, I do quite like the original version. I think it's just down to personal preference. Of course, in the Alduar video, he did say on the character options unboxing that this was meant to be from the earlier half of the story, where they only just started to paint the actual head itself. It was the earlier version of the costume, and then throughout production, it kind of got a little bit darker and battered as the story went on, which I suppose makes sense, and it is still a nice variant. Comparing the two Linx figures side by side, I think this is in fact one of the most drastic updates in paint app of the same character that we have in fact ever seen on a B&M collector set. There is a major and very obvious difference, and as I said earlier, it is simply down to personal preference of what one you like more. Personally, I like the original version, but I think that this variant, the new version, is in fact nice in its own way. In the past, the B&M collector sets have in fact been pretty light on accessories, so I'm really happy to see that Linx and Styre both come with 2 accessories each. So we do of course have the Sontaran helmet, so you have the display option to in fact have him wear this or hold it in his hand, and due to the silver armoured plated sections of this figure being a slightly more metallic silver, very much in a similar style to that of the upcoming B&M Silver Nemesis Cybermen, of course that is reflected within the colour of the helmet itself. So once again we have some nice stipple detailing above the eye sections, as well as a grating as well, where of course he would look out. And just to compare that to the original version, once again, as you can see, there is a major difference, and the original version is a lot more darker and a lot more contrasted with the actual armour. So once again, down to personal preference. Personally, I think that the newer Linx, armour-wise, stands out a lot more, and the original version is quite a nice grayscale variation of Linx. The second accessory that Linx comes with is of course his wand gun accessory, which once again is the same sculpt as per usual, and we do in fact have a few little paint taps on this, including a silver band section, and we do also have a golden paint application on the tip as well, which is very nice. It can be displayed with this, or it can of course also be contained within his holster on his thigh. Taking a look at the likeness of Styre, now one completely different to that of Linx, and I think that it is very effective once again. This figure does have some paint application changes compared to the original Styre figure, however this time round they are a lot more subtle. The basic idea is still there compared to the original version, unlike Linx where they have completely changed the paint application palette entirely, and it does pretty much look like an entirely different figure. So this time round, this one is a lot more closer to that of the original version and does look very effective. The basic idea though still does remain the same, so of course you do have the eyes set back into the face. They've been rather nicely painted with a white and the iris in the very middle. This has been emphasised by of course the sculpt as well as the grey paint taps that have been applied around this, really emphasising the depth of the bone structure around his eye sockets as well as the upper sections as well of his eyebrows here, really nicely brought out by that grey paint tap. At the very bottom we do have his mouth that is much longer than the Linx mouth, and once again very nicely exaggerated by some darker black and grey paint taps. We do have the slight paint detailing of the lighter greys around the lips. Teeth in the middle of the mouth were quite white on the original version and stood out quite a lot. This time they are a lot more subtle, and other than that it is pretty much exactly the same, just rotating the head. Of course we do have the ears at the very side. Note that there isn't any facial hair this time round, unlike the Linx figure, and then of course around the very back we do get a series of different lumps around the sides of the face, a few gradients of grey, a few brush strokes as well. We do have the probic vent as well on the back of the neck collar section, which is exactly the same to the Linx figure. Comparing the two Styre figures side by side, of course the original version is on the right and the new one is on the left. I think this is kind of the same variation of paint tap that I would come to expect from a B&M collector set. It is a lot more traditional in its design and a lot more stripped back. As you can see, there is a lot more weathering generally and a lot more grey paint taps, as well as a few wrinkles on Styre's face from the original version that have been brought out, and the mouth is certainly a lot more emphasised on the original version. However, I think that you do need to really look in order to determine which one is which. Of course, the main giveaway is in fact that the collar section on the original version is black, and on the new version it is silver. Do you think that if you missed out on the original version, then this new version of styre is a good enough counterpart, and certainly one of which that looks very similar to the original version? And once again, depending on what one you like more, it is completely down to that of personal preference. Much like the Linx figure, styre does of course also come with his helmet. Once again, this is a much more simplified sculpt, so we just have the little section in the very middle that goes around to the very back, and we do also have the two holes for the eyes as well. There is no stippling section above the eyes or anything like that. It is just a basic design, very similar to that of a new series Sontaran. Of course, the major difference is once again the colour change. Now, I have been studying a few images of styre from the Sontaran experiment, and it's unusual because I do think the original version, upon looking back, may be too black. However, I think that the current one is maybe a little bit too metally silver. I think it would have been nice to have a blend between the two. Styre's second accessory is of course his gun, which is pretty much just your regular design, the same one from the original Sontaran experiment set, with a few bits of paint application including red and blue, and of course the ping pong ball at the very end. Now, I've purposely not put this too far into his hand in order to give you a better look at the accessory itself, but it is nice that it has been included once again, something of which that I actually didn't expect to see in the set, considering that he also comes with a helmet and could be really nicely displayed with the action figure. And finally, for the Sontarans, giving a comparison between the original Forbidden Planet exclusive versions alongside the new B&M versions, of course it's probably getting quite complex as to which one actually is which, because it is sometimes quite hard to tell, but generally they all go along well together, and I think that when I display mine, I'm probably going to have the two B&M ones with their helmets on, and then of course the original versions with their helmets off, so then I can have a Sontaran army beside my two original versions. But overall, if you missed out on the Forbidden Planet exclusive versions, then this is a perfect opportunity for you to add these two rather iconic classic action figures to your collection. So taking a look at the figure of the set that we are of course all here for, it is Harry Sullivan as portrayed by Ian Marter, who of course was the Doctor Who companion in season 12, the 4th Doctor's opening season, and then went on to depart in the next season's opening story, The Terror of the Zygons. Of course, this is the biggest surprise of the B&M 2019 collector sets, and quite frankly a figure that I don't think any of us ever expected to see after the reduction of the character options action figures a few years ago. Now, of course, the main base body of this figure is rather cleverly the 4th Doctor, also from season 12, in his duffel coat, of course from Genesis of the Daleks, as well as, funnily enough, the Sontaran experiment. And upon getting ready for this review, I realised that there was also a bit of an alteration in this, because we don't have the regular waistcoat that is used here on Tom Baker, but instead we have this open shirt, of course underneath the suggestion of the darker blue coat underneath. Now, this is in fact the sculpt that is used on the later version of the 4th Doctor from the City of Death, and of course Destiny of the Daleks, and then of course is also used on the upcoming 4th Doctor and Shada set. So a really clever reuse of sculpts in fact, and I love the fact that they've been able to design ahead. Of course it is a very similar format to the upcoming Series 11 Doctor Who figures of Ryan, Graham, and of course Yaz as well, coming next year, and I hope that this just opens the barriers to the possibilities of more Doctor Who Classic Series companions coming in the future, because I'm sure there is quite a few bodies that they could use for many different companions. The Gelth woman for Sarah Jane from Pyramids of Mars, for an example, or even the Gelth woman body for a Victorian Leela. There must be an air hostess-ish body for Tegan, or even Astrid Peth body for Nessa, or even maybe Laszlo's body for Adric. There is quite a lot of possibilities. I'm sure that character options could use that in the future. So taking a closer look at Harry Sullivan's costume, to be honest there isn't really that much to talk about, and it is pretty much just a lot of block colour because there's not really that much detail. So taking a look at the very bottom, these shoes have now been replaced from the regular 4th Doctor light brown spat shoes to now include a more glossy black shoe with the same detailing on, of course, because this is just a repaint, with of course the inclusion of the laces as well as a few panels of the shoe in there as well. As for the trousers, these are in fact pretty similar to the regular Tom Baker trousers, with the same detailing of the creases in the material once again, and these have in fact been painted a very similar light brown to that of the regular Tom Baker trousers, with of course the detailing there at the very top as well of the crotch section and the different panels of the trousers themselves. Moving further up the figure now, we do of course have the 4th Doctor Duffel cut sculpt that has been reused in once again a rather effective manner. It works well. It does look a little bit more padded out compared to the cut that he did actually wear in the story. Of course that can't really be helped. This has been changed from the 4th Doctor light brown colour to now be this rather unpleasant, I can't lie, an unpleasant looking yellowy brown colour, which is a little bit outdated, but of course this was the 70s, so it does work rather well nevertheless. We do of course also have the collar around the very top there as well, and the lapels of the jacket with a series of creases around the side, which does of course also continue around to the very back of the figure as well. We have this in-between spine section that has been very nicely sculpted, and the continuation of the panelling design there on the top of the shoulders that would of course originally have been just the regular 4th Doctor cut sculpt. As for the arms, once again exactly the same detailing as it is just exactly the same sculpt, a number of different creases around the sides, and it has once again just been painted in your regular yellowy colour. How lovely indeed. Whilst taking a look in the very middle, we do get this 4th Doctor sculpt of the shirt that is rather baggy with a number of creases. We do have the buttons down the very middle that's been rather nicely given this lighter grey paint app, and the actual shirt itself is a lighter blue colour, which is quite effective. I think we do have an unusual kind of section around the side, which I believe is a suggestion of an open waistcoat, which let's just ignore that because that's not of course a part of Harry's costume. And then we do even get the suggestion of the undercoat underneath, which is of course the navy blue jacket that Harry would normally wear, that you get a better look at in the previous stories. I do believe the Ark in Space is where you see it the most. Of course there is a possibility of other Harry Sullivan figures. They could of course use the Dalek-Sec hybrid body to in fact have a jacketless version of Harry, and once again just swap out the head and hands, and it would probably work quite well. So yeah, I think that more Harry figures in the future is definitely something that we will probably see. And now taking a look at the most exciting part of the figure, it is of course the brand new sculpted head. It is lovely to have a brand new Classic Series action figure after all of these years, and it's not just a recoloured variant, it is an actual brand new sculpt. Very exciting. Of course the likeness to Ian Marter is in fact pretty decent, it has to be said. I think that they've certainly got the face shape and proportions quite well. Putting them around to the front there, as you can see we have the suggestion of the very thick eyebrows that have been rather nicely painted. The eyes have also been very nicely painted in a very sharp detailing, including the eye whites and the iris, and the mouth has also been painted in your slightly pinkish colour, and the rest of the skin tone is just your regular colour once again to many of the other Doctor Who action figures. Tilting the figure around to the side, I think that this is personally the best angle for Harry on this side profile, of course showing off those very thick and standing out sideburns, which do look very impressive indeed in figure form. We do also get the suggestion of the sculpting of the ears in there as well as the many curls on Harry's head, of course, which have just been painted, in fact, in a very similar manner to that of the early Tom Baker figures, using a base colour of a brown, and then, of course, a lighter brownish grey highlight over the top, which does make the figure stand out. One very lovely figure, brilliantly recapturing Ian Marter, and I'm so happy that we can, of course, add this to our figure collections. And finally, to finish off with Harry Sullivan, of course placing him next to Sarah Jane and the 4th Doctor, a rather effective trio of Doctor Who companions of arguably one of the strongest seasons within Doctor Who history. And of course, if you have the previously released B&M exclusive Planet of the Spiders TARDIS as well, that came out earlier this year, this will also be a really lovely product to display beside these figures. And it is great to have another complete Doctor Who Classic Series TARDIS team to add to the collection, especially with it being Harry. So overall, for the Doctor Who B&M exclusive 2019, the Sontarans collector figure set, featuring Linx, Field Major Styre, and of course Harry Sullivan, I think that this set is no doubt going to be attracting quite a lot of attention from people who collected the Doctor Who Classic Series action figures from back in the day, naturally because we finally get to add another Classic Series Doctor Who companion to our collection, and it is great to see that it is Harry as well to complete the Season 12 team. It would be lovely to see another version of Sarah Jane at some point, a Classic Series version, as opposed to a new series sculpt, but that may be on the way at some point. Fingers crossed it will happen. But also, if you are somebody who wishes to army build Classic Series Sontarans, then this set also has a great opportunity for you. Of course, especially if you missed out on the original Linx and Styre figures. Naturally, if you did also get those figures from the originals back in the day, then you could also display both of these two Sontarans with the helmets on in order for them to just look like regular Classic Series troopers. So if anything, this set does have a lot of potential to both Classic Series fans as well as fans of army building. I certainly recommend keeping it in mind if you are considering buying some of the sets that are coming out in B&M over the summer this year. And certainly if you are interested by what I've said throughout this review, maybe go to your local store that stocks these sets and having a look at the different products in hand. So thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions about this product, please do leave them in the comment section below, and I will of course reply to them at some point in the near future. And naturally stay tuned on the Host Productions for more Doctor Who content every single week, as well as other reviews of the other Doctor Who B&M exclusive collector sets coming out this year. I have already reviewed the 8th Doctor and Dalek Interrogator Prime, along with the 5th Doctor and TARDIS set, and the next review as a part of this series will be the 7th Doctor and Cybermen set from Silver Nemesis. So thank you very much for watching this review. I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.